Hello everyone, my name is Maria Isabel Urteaga and I will be discussing John Piaget's Cognitive Development Theories, Chapter 8, Part 2. Principles of Instruction. Basic Assumptions. Perspectives of a child's natural thinking has important implications for education. If childhood is believed to be simply a period that a child goes through to become an adult, then the relationship between the educational system and the child will be unilateral. However, if childhood is accepted as a necessity, an important phase in the development of logical thinking, education will be viewed differently. Piaget recommended the use of active methods that require the students to engage in active topics of interest. However, a high-tech society faces problems. For instance, how can a child apply his spontaneous curiosity on a television set when only an expert knows how it works? The problem is that children enter school with an intelligence that has not been well nourished. Components of instruction. Education should rely on the use of methods that support that spontaneous research of the child. According to Piaget, this approach is particularly important in the teaching of mathematics and science. Mathematics, for example, consists of actions and operations. Therefore, understanding mathematics should begin with action. Piaget recommended science classes that focus on self-directed experimentation as part of experimental procedures and free activities. Child's construction of knowledge. Problems with direct teaching. Children do not learn by internalizing knowledge in ready-made form. Abstract ideas or principles should not be taught through verbal transmission. For example, a child stating that a wooden blade floats because it is thick and copper wire sinks because it is long, the fact that the wooden blade was long was irrelevant to the child. Make-believe play. The importance of make-believe play is that it provides a child a temporary escape from the strange outside world. For example, the child can bake a cake without having to be careful about burning. Use of activities. Curriculum developments advocate the diagnosis of a child's level of cognitive functioning and the provision of particular activities appropriate for the different levels in the classroom. Activities that meet these criteria can provide opportunities for the enrichment and clarification of the child's awareness of object features, actions, and reactions. The teacher's role is first to create and organize classroom activities. Second is to provide examples that lead students to rethink their developed ideas. Operational thinking. Applications in science. For example, in one second grade class, some children were interested in crystals. They made a crystal museum of examples they collected. They grew crystals. They examined them. And they read books about them. Constructivism in mathematics. Piaget's emergent perspective includes that learners actively create knowledge. They create new knowledge by reflecting on actions. The learning occurs in periods of conflict, and opportunities for learning occur during social interaction. For example, in a second grade class, students solve problems that may be resolved in more than one way. In addition, children participate in a discussion to explain and justify their answers. Children learn from interaction and discussion. Formal operational thinking. Formal operational thinking cannot be acquired through prepackaged experiments or by solving end-of-the-chapter problems for a predetermined answer. According to Piaget, an experiment that is not carried out by the individual with complete freedom, it is simply drill with no educational worth. Education and all applications. Classroom issues. Educators have criticized the theory of omitting specific references to individual differences. Piaget's standard response to such criticism was that his focus was the identification of the most general and universal in all people. Readiness. Readiness has two meanings in the interpretation of Piaget's theory. The first one is the individual's capacity to assimilate new information, and the second is the relation to the construction of logical cognitive structures. For example, would be working with operations. Motivation. Piaget's two sources of motivation include the general motivating factor that functions at all levels of development. The second one is motivation is a specific needs at a particular age or period of development. For the cognitive process and instruction, there are three important classroom issues. The first one is developing how to learn skills, and it refers to the individual's ability to organize his or her own behavior in order to extract meaning from situations. The second one is the transfer of learning that implies some sequencing of learning tasks in order to take advantage of their common properties. The last one is teaching problem solving, and according to Piaget, the skill of problem solving cannot be directly taught. Instead, rules of operation and experimentation for problem solution must be discovered by each student. This experimentation is essential to the development of problem solving. Developing a classroom strategy. Piaget's implementation of the curriculum can be accomplished by following four general steps. The first one, teachers must determine which principle in a curriculum thought may be replaced by student-directed research. The second one, teachers must select activities for the identified topics and evaluate them. Step number 3, teachers must provide the opportunity for questions that support the problem-solving process. And the last step, teachers must evaluate the activities. Review of the theory. In reviewing John Piaget's theory of cognitive development, he redefines intelligence, knowledge, and the relationship of the learner to the environment. He believed that intelligence is a continuing process that creates the structures it needs in continuing interactions with the environment. We need to maximize the opportunities for students to construct knowledge for themselves through student-directed research. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you.